CoreWeave in talks to buy CoreScientific. This is an exclusive from the Wall Street Journal. A few things before we kind of dive into some analysis on top of this. But according to people close to the matter, CoreScientific and CoreWeave are in talks for an acquisition. It looks like that it may be finalized in the coming weeks. So this is clearly, we're pretty late stage in this. And I would be really shocked if this falls apart unless there's just, something sour or rotten somewhere in Core's books that CoreWeave hadn't seen. But if this is getting leaked at this point and they're saying it's a few weeks away, like probably a done deal. And also probably coming from the CoreScientific team here leaking this, maybe CoreWeave, but probably CoreScientific seems to maybe help them a little bit more with the stock price bump they've gotten today. Few other housekeeping things. CoreWeave offered to purchase CoreScientific last year for $1 billion. I believe that was at $5.75 a share. Good thing they waited around and held off on that. CoreScientific rebuffed the offer. Now CoreScientific is trading after today's pop in their 25% pop in their share price. They're trading at about $15.40 at a $355 billion valuation. Those are from my show notes when I was prepping earlier. It might be more now. We'll go to the chart here in a second. But this would be one of the largest acquisitions I would imagine in Bitcoin mining. If you take SPACs out, which I don't include, I don't think you can really compare them to just straight up M&A. I mean, the largest acquisition to date is Riot purchasing Windstone from Northern Data in 2020. That was $651 million. Then you had the Hut 8 American or US Bitcoin merger in 2023 or 2024. I believe it was 2023. That was about $1 billion, the two companies merged together. And we don't have a price point on this, but our friend Penny Ether did some pretty decent back of the napkin math. And he figured that, you might see anywhere from 15 to 22.50 per share for this acquisition, which would put the final purchasing price at anywhere between 4.47 billion and 6.6 billion. So pretty fat. Nick, any thoughts?
I mean, it's unfortunate. Well, it's great to see. It's great for the space. Miners, pubco miners across the board have to be excited at this proposition. But as a miner myself, and as I've been a CoreScientific fan since they were just hosting CoreWeave's Ethereum miners back in 2018 or so. Been a big fan of CoreScientific for a long time, and this kind of feels like the end of their Bitcoin mining run. We'll see. I have to think one of the first orders of business will be to sell off the mining assets to somebody that's looking to operate them. But we'll see what we'll see what happens. I have no inside baseball. This is as much a news to me as it is to everybody else. So it is exciting. I mean, public markets for I hate to say crypto, but with Circle's IPO going crazy, Coinbase stock has been doing very well. All signs are pointing up and to the right for public equities in crypto and Bitcoin mining. So this is another great signal for the industry, and it feels like just the start of a much larger move across the board.
What do you think shedding their mining operations looks like? I mean, is that literally just selling the facilities turnkey? Because I'm not really totally sure how much of the retrofitted stuff still has Bitcoin mining in it.
Yeah, that's a question that I don't have an answer for either, but I assume it means, just cleaning up the profile of the asset being CoreScientific, meaning any sites that can't be turnkey AI HPC, they probably will turn into, those will probably be for sale if I had to guess. Those will probably end up going to some big acquirer that's looking to expand their mining fleet here in the US. Sites that have retrofit capability but are not currently retrofit, they'll probably gut them, clean them out, sell all those machines on the market, and again take those offline and sell them to whoever's looking to buy some used machines. And yeah, really, I think if I had to guess, I just think that, there's so much more opportunity for CoreScientific specifically in the AI HPC space, especially with CoreWeave buying them and trying to kind of align the incentives of the two businesses. seems like they would probably want to leave behind the Bitcoin mining aspect.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as Penny points out in his tweet, it's like peanuts compared to what they're going to get for their HPC segment. And looking at this chart here, I'll bring it down in a second. We're looking at $15.88 per share for CoreScientific after nearly 30% bump to their stock price today.
So it's kind of something I found kind of interesting is that it ends up on the low end of Penny's estimate. And Penny usually nails these things. I mean, I know him pretty well, kind of behind the scenes as well as his public persona. He knows his stuff, and he definitely hits these things. And it's sitting at the bottom end of his range. Which, if I'm a trader, I'm looking at that like maybe there's more room here.
Totally. And one of the things Penny mentions in here, and then I'll stop piggybacking off of his analysis, but you're right, his math is usually pretty dead on. He has a disclaimer at the end of this. He's like, don't have M&A experience, and I have zero investment banking experience, but he's a pretty good quant in his own right in terms of being able to crunch the numbers. He kind of points out here that, if CoreWeave doesn't offer a good enough price here, CoreScientific might have options. He mentions another hyperscaler company called Equinix, or just General Compute. I don't know exactly what their business lines are, but they're another kind of data center services company. And he says here, there's a big win-win here. Equinix can buy $680 million a year in EBITDA, and at a 20x multiple on it, or whatever it is, that'd be worth $27 per share to them. So, I mean, I don't know if that multiple sticks, who knows? But if we're looking at an upper bound of $27 per share, there is a huge range here. And I think that's what's pretty exciting about this, is in terms of how do you value not just a data center, but specifically one of these kind of early stage hybrid Bitcoin mining data center companies. What value do you even put on these assets, right, in the business as a whole? And I think this will be obviously a seminal acquisition for kind of putting that number out there for potential future acquisitions. That kind of leads me to my last point here, Nick, as well. You got to wonder what this means for Galaxy and Applied Digital. These are the other two companies that CoreWeave has been active with in terms of getting data center space for their GPU clusters. I don't know if it necessarily changes anything for those contracts. I can't speak to that. I don't have any of the operational or business development experience to say. But you got to wonder if they're also maybe in CoreWeave sites, I mean, the company is valued at like $100 billion. They don't have too much cash on hand, but they can raise, their equity is worth so much, so that they're not worried about that. And any investment bank, is going to be willing to underwrite something like this or advise any sort of M&A deal for them. So I just can't help but wonder in the background, what does this mean for some of those other AI and HPC contracts that CoreWeave has?
Yeah, Applied is worth right now about $2.3 billion, up 7% on the day, and Galaxy's actually quite large. Almost $11 billion, up 5% on the day. So there is some optionality for CoreWeave here, but it does seem like acquiring your landlord seems like a pretty good move.
Yep.
Equinix is just so everybody on the call knows, Equinix is probably the largest data center provider in the United States for traditional data centers. So like majority of like AWS and GCP and stuff are hosted at Equinix sites. So traditional tier 3 data centers, the kind you see on TV, like, they've got, redundant AC system or air conditioning systems. They've got redundant power systems. These are places that stay online, except, minus a few minutes a year. So, they have the experience to run something like this. And so I think, Equinix is actually an interesting play. I didn't even consider that one until I read Penny's post.
Yeah. In terms of buying the CoreScientific sites, It would be interesting. It also, and this is for another time because we need to move on, but it's really interesting to me that Equinix, you just said, they're one of the largest, or not the largest data center company in the US. Their market cap is $75 billion versus CoreWeave's $100 billion. I don't know.
And not everybody knows, but CoreWeave just started as an Ethereum miner hosted at CoreScientific.
Crazy.
And here they are, $100 billion business.
Yeah, CoreWeave team, if you're listening to this, please come on the pod. We'd love to talk about the Cinderella story that we're currently witnessing unfold.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the episodes we put out. Also, check us out on Spotify, Apple, and elsewhere.